Oh, it's the revivey thing. Could have done with that on the boss. Wow, look at all that burn. That burn, baby. Let's take this. Good, I'm glad it's hard.
빨리 끝내고 밥 먹으러 가자고.
We haven't suffered enough with a wayward passenger today. 17th of September, yeah. Yeah, that's right, I think that I got. Yeah, there's a lot of mysticism in the city. Happy birthday, Bellico. Here's a Limbus Canto, hopefully. Like don't forget things like the gnomes, like the Christmas gnomes, they're canon as well, like, and they are very, very magical, right? Like they are clearly mystical creatures.
전부 잡아드리죠.
꿰뚫려라. 쏟아내라. 이 작살엔 필살의 집념이 담겨있지. 보았나? 저건 이렇게 진행해졌다. 우리의 확고한 승리가 눈앞에 있다.
전부 잡아드리죠. 따스한 피 스며드는군. 다음 놈 나와.
너 맛.
못 쳐주게!
Farm is easy. Cool.
행진의 꽃, 이것이 서곡의 피날레다. 너는 가족이 되게 약하.
I hope she cries. An odd thing to wish for. Yeah, anyone who cries definitely gives a fuck about people. No, I don't want anyone to suffer.
당연하지.
Suffering isn't good to wish on people.
야음을 틈타.
A mystery.
정화. 꿰뚫려라. 꿰뚫리고.
행진의 꽃, 이것이 서곡의 피날레다. 목이 피었잖아. 왕의 비호를
순순히
한다.
돌아가기 싫다면 大きな打撃を与えました。はい。저놈을 쇼케!
피는 확실히 빼는 편이 좋지. 너 말.
Yeah, maybe we'll see Ahab get the same treatment that BOKGAK Kim did in terms of ID. They'll release an ego for Captain Ishmael. That makes her not absolute nightmare to play with.
목이 피었잖아. 전부 잡아드리죠. 따스한 피. 베르주레. 왕의 피오를 하사한다.
이 작살엔 필살의 집념이 담겨있지.
敵は深手を負っています。
따뜻한 소리.
多数討伐確認。
꿰뚫려라. 피는 확실히 빼는 편이 좋지. 쓸만해졌고.
눈높이를 낮춰라.
이 작살엔 필살의 집념이 담겨있지.
You should really shard all of the blood fiends or just Radiant. I don't do that. What do you mean I don't do that? I don't do that. I don't No, I don't shard things. We have the free characters and selectors, and that is it. Why? Because I don't want to. The game is easy enough as it is, you know? I enjoy struggling on the fights. I don't want to make things any easier. I've seen what modern IDs do to this game. And I have fun. I'm very attached to my characters. Hello, Jakero. Free. It's not about being free. I'm not free to play in the game. It's nothing to do with being free. I have the battle pass and I've paid for a selector. I just play the way I want to play. Frame on cam, yeah, thank you. We love our Ishmael frame. I don't want to click that. I'd be mad. It'd be absolute madness. Yes, chef. Yes, chef. Oh wait, we should probably do something functional here, shouldn't we? I guess. I guess. I'm not trying to say anything, I'm just saying. That's great, man. When season 9 or 10 rolls around, mate, like, the game is not really that hard. I did the whole of Kanto 1 to 8 with base IDs and without knowing how to do the game. And I can't even do Railway 5 and 6 because I can't enter them. It just doesn't really matter that much. Like, who cares? It's a story game. It's a fucking visual novel. Who gives a shit? I have finished the story. I'm meant to do with that. That's fine. Yeah, maybe. I mean, that would be fun. It'll be fun trying to do stuff and not being able to do it. Like, I don't need to win at games to have fun playing games, you know? Sometimes it's way more fun for me to, like, struggle at something. Because it feels more satisfying when I win. You like bashing your skull against the wall? Sometimes, yeah, sure. Depends. Oh, wow, she beast. There are a lot of different people in the world, Chef, and they all have their own perspectives on things. Many will be different to yours. It's not that hard because it's a gacha game, which sucks. It's not that hard because there's insane power creep in the game. Nothing to do with it being a gacha game, really. Probably off of the back of KJH massively overstepping with Mal Faust and then not being allowed to nerf her by the community. And probably being like, fuck it. Just gonna make everything broken now. KJH is growing back. I feel like KJH is growing several mental disorders. Pretty sure that's the only thing KJH is growing. Maybe his wallet is as well. Not sure. Oh god, no. Hold on a second. Now wait just a second. Now hold on just a moment. You can't take these layered bandages. That's not a real thing. Last mirror dungeon. I've only got one. I haven't done any mirror dungeons today. Okay, on a rant about people. Yeah, that's the mental disorders at work. There, chef. That is a man who needs some professional help. I really want to do this? Probably not. Season of the Flame, that's pretty chilled, right? The Season of the Flame. I don't want to do La Mancha Land reopening. As much as I like Dulcinea. I think I could do without seeing her tonight. Yeah. These are not the words of a sane man. KJH is fucking unhinged, dude. The guy is a loose cannon.
무슨 맛일까?
He probably won't put crazy bosses in the story, I imagine. Like, they have the feature now where you can revive for gems, which means that they can probably make things a bit harder. But I think he's learned that. I mean, it's been so many cantos. This game is a story game. Most of the people who are playing it are ultra casual. Gotta appeal to your crowd, you know. Though, particularly now that they've started bringing out the refractal stuff, I think they'll probably save their super hard stuff for that.
너, 맛, 이제 쓸만해졌고. 잘했군. 저놈을 추적해.
나는 가족이 되게 약하고.
쏟아내라.
돌아가기 싫다면 목이 비었잖아. 다음 놈 나와. 폭죽 소리가 들리는 것 같군.
Get him too. Get him too.
우리 식구를 건드렸겠다. 베르주레. 왕의 힘을 하사한다. 나는 가족이 되기엔 약하군.
Other bosses is seeing you suffer more, so it's kind of win-win. Yeah, sure. But I'm not sure that they're going to make particularly hard bosses in the future. Not in story. Just, maybe outside of it. Probably outside of it. I think they get now that they have a lot of players playing this game, and probably like 90+% of them are just casual people who want to log in and see the story because they like the IP. So making bosses too hard just gates them out of being able to see the story.
이 작살엔 필살의 집념이 담겨 있지.
식구를 건드렸겠다.
RTS game of a wing. Be interesting.
이 작살엔
Never say never. The best thing ever.
담겨 있지. 너, 맛, 이제 쓸만해졌고.
불개서敵に対して大きな打撃を与えます。
가족이 되기엔 약하군. 목이 피었잖아. 다음 놈.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. Sure, they'd like to explore various different things. I don't know if they'll ever get around to it. A lot of work, innit?
순순히 보라를 받으시죠.
適した攻撃でなくても最善の選択だったはずだ
기세가 수그러지는 반격의 기회다.
Yeah, I can never get Valpurgis units or egos. I'm slowly unlocking all of the Battle Pass egos, but I'm only at the end of Season 2.
눈높이를 낮춰라. 오베르츄레. 왕의 비호를 하사한다.
If we do a like a season every season, then eventually we'll catch up.
우리 식구를 건드렸겠다.
敵は深手を負っています
너는 가족
No, I just won't play with it. It'll be really broken anyway.
가족이 되게 약하군. 목을 내놓으시죠. 목이 피었잖아. 다음 놈 나와.
Maybe I'll be able to select him in like 5 years. Our group is tied to plot, so you can't really say anything. What? I don't understand what you're trying to say. Power creep is tied to plot, so you can't really say anything. Say anything about what?
야음을 틈타.
Ugh. Oh, I forgot that this would be on this pack. Gross. Disgusting. Oh wait, doesn't make any sense, does it?
전부 잡아드리죠.
Why would we hit it?
エリート
It's
オペ
got
レ
a
ーターの
thingy all Our creep is tied to plot, so yes, I can justify having Malfaust in the game. Yeah, because Malfaust is so critical to the plot of the game.
이 작살 필살의 집념이
Yes. Oh yes.
담겨 있지.
適した攻撃でなくても最善の選択だったはずだ
순순히 보라를 받으시죠.
V 摘出このまま進めましょう
Malfaust must be so problematic for them to design anything in this game around. What an immense mistake they made with her.
と効果的な方法が
To be honest, I really wish they just hadn't listened to the community and they just nerfed the shit out of her. Would have made their lives so much easier, I imagine.
퍼레이드와 희날.
Yeah, the new Rio shoe, as has been showcased by Captain Cabinets. The game isn't really much fun when you play with Rio shoe. If you want any kind of strategical anything for the first like 8 cantos.
너 말.
ドクターのように優れた式ですね
이
무기를 만드는 것만 내가 어버이보다 뛰어.
何か変化が
That's not true. She's fucking insane, dude.
행진했고 이것이
She can solo carry you through the game very easily.
왕의 비를 하사한다. 속을 마실 걸?
I mean, she's no Malfaust.
산초류 경혈고 라션. 끝을 낼 시간이.
Yeah, a lot of characters can. Yep. That's what I'm saying. Power creep is disgusting in this game. It's absolutely crippling. It doesn't matter though, because again, it's a story game. As long as the characters are fun, that's all that really matters. Because balance doesn't matter. There's no competition. Story game. No worries.
라만 차렌들을 뒤엎는다.
Could be anyone, Vice.
囚人の皆さんの状態に
Well, that's good.
무슨 맛일까?
That's good, Chef. Like they do some modes to get some people sweating.
저놈을 추적해.
Oh, could you stop flipping every coin ahead? Thank you. Holy moly. You guys cracked out.
엎드리도록.
림버스 컴퍼니の皆さんとご一緒できて本当に嬉しいです
무슨 맛일까?
That kind of really goes to show just how broken like modern characters are compared to old characters. The fact that they don't need any synergy, they don't need a team, and they just bust through everything.
하사한다.
The Limbus community were getting mad at Captain Cabinet. It's like really seriously mad because she wasn't struggling on the bosses that were meant to be hard. They'd all big them up, being like, "Oh, you'll see how hard things are when you get to Ricardo." And then she just fucking slashed him up with Ryushi.
너 맛.
Fucking Limbus community, man.
이제 쓸만해져.
Bunch of fucking bellends. Captain Cabinets is her name. Chef.
왕의 행진이다.
Yeah, they did, Belago. It's like, oh, she will be bad. He is resistant to slashing.
見られます
Like,
허레이드와
yeah, it's like, power creep is very, very real.
効果的な攻撃です
She had no idea what she was doing, Chef, and she still won. Yeah, the death device is nuts. Yeah, really nuts. Really nuts.
왕의 비를 하사한다. 이 식구를 건드렸겠다. 속을 마실 걸? 목이 피었잖아.
敵に対して大きな打撃を与えました
무슨 맛일까? 이 작살엔 필살의 집념이 담겨있지. 흙으로 따뜻한 피.
Dongrang's a funny name because it's got the word dong in it.
ぎぴよっちゃら
適した攻撃でなくても最善の選択だったはずです。
너 이제 쓸만해져.
I had to use Ishmael's like death save
이것이
for that fight.
가족이 되기 약하군.
순순히 목을 내놓으시죠.
Oh, King. Oh, I don't really remember much of Oh King. Just that I had to reset him a bunch of times. The opening turns basically dictate the entire fight. Oh wait, that's a 4. I'm a fool. I'm a fool.
어떤 조직 놈들인지 면면 좀 받을까?
전부 잡아드리죠.
Chapter Canto 5, Canto 6, sorry, has a pretty scary gauntlet of bosses here.
꿰뚫려라.
이 식구를 건드려.
Maybe, Chef, maybe. Who knows?
이 작살엔
Can't wait for
필살의
pink
집념이
coins.
담겨 있지. 떼어라.
행진의 꽃. 이것이 서국의 피날레다. 왕의 비호를 하사한다. 목이 피었잖아.
ドクターのように優れた式ですね。
정화.
따스한 피. 스며드는군.
감정의 사람. 꿰뚫리고.
V摘出。このまま進めましょう。
이 작살엔 필살의 집념이 담겨 있지.
So this charge idea is weak. I have seen one person today say that, what is it, Shredder Yi-san? Not particularly good.
너 맛.
もっと効果的な方法が。
Unfortunately for Yi-sang IDs,
전부 쳐죽여!
yeah, a lot of people do hate charge IDs. Unfortunately, another problem is that for Yi-sang IDs, every single ID, it's kind of the Malfaust effect now, right? Like every single Yi-sang ID has to compare to
행진을
Rien-sang.
멈추지 마라. 이 좁디 좁은 왕
So
멸망한 그 땅으로 돌아갈 때까지 보아라. 저들이 우리의 모습을 우러러 보는 것을.
we did it. That's what I'm saying. Anything that comes out is like directly compared. So it's hard for them to make like competitive Yisangs because they'd be too big. Not that many. We just used our boxes on ADD. As again, we're working through the season 2 IDs. This is what I meant, Bellico. Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't have anything to raise up, Chef. I got like 10,000 thread as well. But I just don't have anything to use it on, right? Oh yeah, I was meant to be assembling my modules. Tickets technically free. Again, dude, it's not about it being free. It's nothing to do with it being free. I don't know how much clearer I can make it. Yes. No lunacy or sharding. No, I said no pulling. No pulling. With these, you pull 10 times. 10 extractions. No pull. Yeah, we always hit the big 1-0. How wild indeed. Ow. Broken something or other. Who knows? $42K, huh? Right, folks. Thank you for keeping me company during my laborious Limbus litany. Yeah, there we go. Lovely alliteration. I gotta go. I'm fucking shattered. I'll be back tomorrow. What day is it tomorrow? Friday? Friday. I think we're back on Granblue tomorrow. We got all sorts of farming to do. So yeah, love you very much. Thanks for all your help. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful night. And see you tomorrow. Thank you, Chef. Thank you, Quantum. Thank you, Lisa's brother. Thank you, Bella Coulter. Thank you, Warlock. Thank you, anyone else who's still out there. Consider a hard gacha. The hardest gacha I've ever played. Langrissa was surprisingly hard because it's very, very strategic. So Langrissa Mobile, I would honestly say that Langrissa Mobile is probably harder than Wizardry, but both of those hard games. Langrissa, I honestly think is harder than Wizardry. Yeah, Langrissa Mobile, really hard game. Both, like, not just the PvP either, the PvE. Langrissa. Yeah, probably Langrissa. Langrissa, like, if you go and play Langrissa nowadays, then you will probably immediately pull a broken modern ID and plow through every piece of content that you ever see. But doing things when they were current in Langrissa was actually really difficult. Like, you had to put your mind into the strategy quite a lot to be able to get through it. That game is super hard. Id. I said id. I said ID. I said something or other. Who knows what I say? I don't even know what I'm saying most of the time. Right, guys. I'm out. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I love you. See you tomorrow. Okay, thanks,